What's up, everybody? Ashley Nicole Moss here from We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. And look, if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, if you are not tapped in with us on audio, if you are not following us on social media, you are missing out, and you're missing out even more than usual because we have a very special show on deck. You are not going to want to miss a second of this. So if you are not tapped in with us wherever you possibly can be, make sure you fix that right now. Right now. All the socials and everything, we got you covered. The YouTube page, we got you covered. And if you don't know where to find us, we got you covered there too. So there's no excuse to not be tapped in with us here at We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T.
You see her reporting on the NFL sidelines every single week. She's an insider. She is reporting on every single thing. She's all over it on social, definitely. And I also checked out her social because I want to see what she said about herself. And she said she is a self-proclaimed mommy, neat freak, and dream chaser. I'm so honored to sit here and talk with someone who's been on We Need to Talk as well, so we'll get into that. But Aditi Kinkhabwala, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, ladies.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Is that terrible that I didn't say I'm a daughter, a sister, and a wife
No,
also?
no,
we got that.
I actually said that. I said it because I think it's important that you include all of these things about yourself. When I was reading different bios, we're getting prepared for all this. I know you guys, but I definitely wanted to do my due diligence, right? When we're doing this. And it just stood out to me because I feel like a lot of people don't include all facets of their life. And I really appreciated that. So
I feel like I should include crier also. I am known, especially on We Need to Talk, as the crier.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I just think, all of the things that make us who we are important. So
I got a couple criers in my family. That's nothing to be ashamed
listen,
of.
and I'm a crier too.
Right? You flush it out.
I cry on commercials. There's some emotional commercials out there. I'm just saying.
So you're like my mom.
The one where the family buys the house, like the father is in the military and the mom and the child buy the house and they open the door and the dad is waiting for them in his uniform. You know what I'm talking about?
Listen, I'm tearing up. Stop. The makeup.
Every time. Anyway, all right.
But when I look at all these things and the things that you're saying about yourself, how do you balance all of that?
I want to say by probably drinking a lot of champagne, but I don't know if that's actually
it's factual.
Listen, we'll take that answer.
I just do the best that I can. I'm not as good at giving myself grace as I wish I am, or I wish I was, but I recognize that you cannot chase every single thing to here. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, this actually comes from my husband because he was like, I feel if you do something, you better do it as well as you can. And if that is wiping that counter, you better wipe that counter as well as you can. If you are cleaning a toilet, you better be able to see your face in that toilet. I do everything here, but I think I recognize that everybody's here is not the same. Mm. So I'll use my kids as an example. I'm not a PTO mom, parent-teacher organization. I just can't volunteer at the school all the time. I have a job, I'm busy, I travel a lot, I juggle a lot of things in my home. But there's a piece of me that sometimes feels guilty. Mm-hmm. And my son brought it up to me last year. Mom, you never, come to Halloween at school. You don't ever do a field trip. And I will do it before he gets so old that he doesn't want me there. I will at one point. But I try to do what I can do. And I know that I'm the mom when I'm home that is kicking soccer balls with my 5-year-old in the backyard, that's playing catch with my son, that's going over homework if that's what it is. I am at soccer practice cheering on my daughter. I will not miss a soccer practice. I miss games because they're Saturdays. Okay, so you try to do as much as you can. And I think that I have gotten to the point in my life that I feel comfortable with that.
I mean, making a pit stop back home just so you can see your kids for a few hours and then getting back on a plane.
Making sure they're still alive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's ever such a thing as balance. I think it's an ideology that we all like to strive for, but I think it's just a very unattainable thing when you are so pulled in so many different directions. It's about doing everything well, but not trying to do everything equally.
Correct. And I think that that's the whole point, right, Ashley? Because it's not, your balance is not necessarily my balance. Like even if it's something as stupid as like how you work out, you may be 40% cardio and 20% weights. I may be 55% cardio because I can't focus on the weights, but it's like whatever works for you and whatever is the right balance for you. I like to cook, so I cook for my family. There are other families. We were just talking, the ladies and I were talking, and another one of my colleagues who I love and who I also feel is a very present wife and mother, she gets food delivered because for her, she'd much rather have the food delivered and spend her time in a different way. So
listen, I'm single and I get my food delivered. So.
but the whole point is like, we can't be judged by somebody else's perfect formula. We each have our own formula, and it's just figuring it out as we go.
Yeah. Well, one of the things
and champagne.
Put that in there. Well, one of the things that you definitely put into your schedule are the We Need to Talk shows that you do. It's been 10 years. What has it been like to be a part of this groundbreaking show?
It's funny. I still remember the first show that I did, which I wasn't one of the OGs. I came in almost 2 years in, and I was so intimidated, right? Like you walk in and Leslie Visser and Andrea Kramer and Lisa Leslie and Layla Ali, like these are the women that are the baddest of badasses. And you're suddenly saying, yeah, I deserve a seat at that table. And the most magical piece of being a part of We Need to Talk is that they make you feel, yes, you do deserve a seat at the table. And the friendships I formed, the teammates that I have. I mean, I could tell you that I still remember a day that I was nervous and Lisa Leslie reaches over, puts her hand on top of mine and says, "You got this." And I was like, yeah, I do got this. And then what's crazy is that just a little while ago, Amy Trask told the same story about Layla Ali doing that for her. And that's what this group is. And even we missed Dara Torres today, but I love her. I am so inspired by this new dream that she's chasing as a college coach. These are women. Gosh, I remember talking to Swin Cash about the Steelers. Swin Cash went to the same high school that my husband went to.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and cannot stand when I don't have only amazing things to say about the Pittsburgh Steelers. And now she's running her own organization. I mean, how crazy. It's just, I love this group. I love what we do. I love that I work for a place in CBS that supports this sort of endeavor.
I mean, when you talk about a crazy journey, when you started as a writer, the industry was drastically different, right? Press rooms were different, press boxes were different. The industry as a whole was just different. Did you ever imagine the industry would turn into what it has turned into? And did you ever imagine that you would be in the position starting as a writer that you are in now?
Ashley, I never had an interest in television. I literally say this all the time. I don't know if I wore eyeliner before I was on television. Like I was the classic tomboy. And now I know how to put on fake eyelashes.
Oh, that's you got me beat because I still don't know how to do that. So,
but I never thought about the television medium because I loved writing. But I was never even supposed to be a sports writer. I was only supposed to do that for 1 year and then go to law school. So the whole journey in and of itself, I will say this, I know that when I started, when I was 22 years old and I was covering high school football in San Antonio, Texas at the San Antonio Express News, there was another female writer in the newsroom and there was a female page designer, but places I went, press rows, press boxes, whatever, I was the only woman, always. And I was often met with surprise that there was a girl covering high school football. I don't think I ever thought about being the only girl. I don't think I ever thought about being the only girl of Indian descent. I don't think that I ever thought, it just was about doing the job. This is my job and this is what I'm doing and all that other stuff is noise. And it isn't until I'm 20 years in and people come to me and say something, whether it's, a young Asian American person or it's a young woman, that you really sort of realize that you were, it even sounds so arrogant to say it, but blazing a path in some way, right? Like you don't,
Absolutely.
When I was at the NFL Network for 10 years that I was at the NFL Network, I was the only female reporter in those 10 years to have a baby. And that's sort of like, at the time, all you're thinking about is, okay, my husband and I have been married now for almost 2 years. We're ready to start a family. You're not thinking, well, I want these other female reporters to see that it can be done.
Right.
When, the first team that I went to after my son was born wouldn't give me a room to pump breast milk in. I'm not thinking like, oh, I got to go make spaces. I'm like, well, I need a place to pump breast milk. So you're not really thinking about knocking down, at least me. I was never thinking about knocking down doors. I was just thinking, what do I need to do to get my job done, to be as good at my job as I can be, and in an instance like that, take care of my family. And that's it.
Well, listen, you certainly are a trailblazer. You're certainly knocking down doors, and we just...
You know what that means, though? When somebody says you're a trailblazer, that means you're old.
No, it
does not. Call me a trailblazer. I don't care. It does not mean
trails
that.
are of all ages. It's a young trail, a middle of the road trail, an older trail. It does not
Listen.
matter. Trails have no age limit.
Yeah, you just blazing all the trails. There's
Blazing
no
all the
age to that.
trails.
You do what you can,
Yeah,
right?
but we're very thankful that we got to talk with you about your path and about these 10 years, and we're looking forward to 10 more. So.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I don't know if you know this, but I am a New York girl. I'm a diehard New York Knicks fan. I'm looking at Alicia. I know I'm supposed to be looking at the camera, but I'm looking at her just so she remembers exactly what I bleed, and that is orange and blue. And
How
you
could I
can't
forget?
talk New York, and you can't talk Knicks without talking about our next guest, and that is Tina Cervasio. Hello, hello.
What an intro. I am so excited right now because we're talking New York sports, because I have
Yes.
to reel it in sometimes on when we
I
need
never
to talk,
do.
the national show.
I never do.
But
No,
I'm the New York.
I hear it all the time.
New
Yes.
Yorker.
Trust me.
Listen, growing up here, born and raised in New York, you were such a huge part of not only my just introduction to news, but sports specifically, New York Knicks basketball. Now it's New York Liberty basketball. I mean, it is such a cool place. I tell people all the time, when you talk about New York, and you talk about New York sports, they either love you or they hate you. It's really no middle ground with New Yorkers. It's love, it's hate, it's black and white. What has your experience been like, and why do you think rather it's been so successful when it's such a tough market to get love and admiration and success in?
There are 14 pro sports teams, technically 15 with the PWHL, the Women's Professional League. They now have the New York Sirens. So they have just added another professional sports team. So it's a lot to cover when you're talking about New York sports. But the passion, and I'm not going to specify which city. I worked in another city for a while. Passionate, incredible, beautiful, great sports town, a championship town, all kinds of Super Bowls and World Series and NBA championships while I was there. But I was not from that region. And I came home to New York. Now, I'm born and raised in New Jersey, still live in Jersey, but 11 miles from, I could see the Empire State Building from my house. Now it's a little different because there's all new buildings.
Yeah.
But I grew up looking at the Empire State Building. And I always say I live closer to Manhattan than people that live out on Long Island or in Queens. Like sometimes they're 15 miles. Well, I was 11. And so I was a New Yorker, grew up in New York, a fan of all the New York sports. And when I came back and got a job at MSG Network doing the New York Knicks as their sideline reporter in 2008 was my first year there. It was like a welcome back. It's like, oh, this is the fan base. And they knew I was one of them. Even sometimes when you grow up, are you a Mets fan, Yankees fan, Knicks, Nets. I mean, I used to go to Nets games to watch the Knicks because I couldn't afford or get tickets to Madison Square Garden when I was a teenager or just out of college. My husband, now boyfriend at the time, was working for the Nets, still works for the Brooklyn Nets. I still put on my Jalen Brunson jersey the other day.
That's right. That's right.
So, and my Cervasio 5 jersey that I have as well. So it is a great, passionate town. Thirsty and hungry right now for a championship. It's been a while. Gotham FC, thank goodness, the NWSL team won a championship last year. I had Jenna Niswanger, the Rookie of the Year, come into our office. I work in local, so I work at CBS Sports, do college football on the weekends, do We Need to Talk, other specials. But my full-time job is local sports in New York at a local news affiliate. And I had Jenna walk around our station with that trophy, because they come in with the Stanley Cup when it's not even a New York or New Jersey team that wins it. They have the people from the NHL. It's like, you're going to walk around. And the respect she got, it was so exciting. But when you're looking at a grand scale, this is a hungry city right now for a championship. So, it's fun to be a part of that and cover all of that.
Absolutely.
Well, and talk about all the stuff that you've covered, you know, all the sideline reports you've had, all the just reports in general that you've had. What is a favorite memory that stands out? I know there's a lot for you to like sift through, but just one moment that, you know, you felt like was really amazing in your career,
Can I do
amazing
two?
moment to be a part of. Do two. Give us two.
So since coming back to New York and working full time and covering New York sports, most recently to do first I do the sideline reporting for the New York Liberty, their local broadcasts. Also did a game for CBS Sports. And to be in that arena this year, not at a finals game, at a regular season game. And it was packed to the rim, and it was against the Chicago Sky. So I was also there. It was on another network when the Indiana Fever came in with Caitlin Clark. So then my first game was against the Chicago Sky. Great rookies, you know, Angel Reese and Aaliyah Boston. So it's a great roster they're playing against. Teresa Weatherspoon, former Liberty player. So it had that juice. Filled to the rim and as loud, and you could feel Barclays Center shaking as much as any time I've been at a playoff game at the Garden or at Barclays Center. And to see it for women's sports, a regular season game, because it was great for the finals against the Aces. But to see that and be on the floor and feel it, and also just the fans yelling out like, "Hey, Tito," like, "Remember you on the Knicks? It's so great to see you at the Liberty." Like, it was just so emotional because it was a women's game.
Yeah.
And it was the women's game. But a really cool moment I got to experience that you don't predict was watching the Aaron Judge home run chase. 2 years ago to his chase to 62 and being able to travel to different games and being at Yankee Stadium when he had 60 to tie Babe Ruth. And then being on the road in Toronto when he tied Mickey Mantle at 61 and seeing Mickey Mantle's son, but also seeing Aaron there with his parents. And, you know, what do you do with the ball and how are your teammates reacting? And then to see him hit 62 in Toronto, it was just wild. Oh, in Texas is when he hit his 62nd home run, which was on the second to last day of the season. And just the feeling of relief he had as an athlete, because then you're covering him and you're seeing the pressure and he's trying to focus and they were trying to clinch a division. And to just watch all of that kind of just develop over the course of a couple of weeks. But it was about a month's time when we knew he could get there and he was on pace. And to be there for it and ask him questions afterwards. And I read stories growing up. You read stories about Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle and the Bash Brothers and all these different things. And to experience it with your own eyes, you don't predict that. So that's been something recent. But also watching Carmelo, speaking of 62,
come home,
drop 62 back in 2014.
Yeah, I mean,
and to be on the court for that game.
So many historic moments you've been part of within the sports industry, just across the board. Obviously, New York sports even more so. But also, we need to talk. 10 years of this just historic show, this groundbreaking show. Walk us through when you got the phone call to be part of this. And I mean, being part of something that's never been done, it's nerve-wracking. There's a little bit of anxiety, you know, tied behind it. But what was that phone call like when they were like, "We want you to be part of this. I know it's never been done, but come on board and let's figure it out."
I have the chills thinking about it. So going back to 2014 when the show launched, I was working at MSG Network. So I wasn't at CBS yet. And I remember the build up to it because I knew a lot of people behind the scenes. I knew Amy Salmonson for several years, and I knew, you know, she worked at CBS, and I was watching her go up the ladder and climb to the top as a producer and be part of the creation of We Need to Talk. So I knew everything that was going on behind the scenes. And I remember watching that show and looking at the names. And of course, Leslie Visser is my inspiration, my idol, somebody that caught my eye, everything I've always wanted to be as a sideline reporter, as a journalist, as an interviewer. And of course, she, you know, her and Andrea Kramer's, the front and center of this show, and journalists like Dana Jacobson, and then watching Tracy from college to the NFL. So watching that first show and following the show as a fan. I wanted to hear what the women on the cast had to say. So that was the first several years. And a couple of years later, I started slowly working more and more at CBS Sports Network. Started with arena football, college basketball on the sidelines. And when I got that call, we would like you to have a seat at the table.
Oh my gosh.
It's emotional.
Yeah.
It really was emotional. And what was really neat about that particular day is Aaron Taylor was one of our guests, and I had already worked with him as an analyst in one of our college football games. And it was all about mental health. and we're overcoming this stigma, and we're hearing people's really personal, deep, heavy stories. And it allowed me to be a true journalist. Like you could not be a fan on that game, on that show. You had to be a true journalist, ask hard questions, talk about deep topics, and bring correct information to the table when you're talking about statistics or different things with diagnoses and stats and numbers and people's stories. Family, a mother and father talking about their daughter who died by suicide and things like that. So it was a heavy show to do, but it also really to be a part of something that's so important to sports. It's not just scores and results and stats, and that's what we need to brings to the table, the tough topics that happen in sports, things that transcend the game, but it's so much about game, and it's a microcosm of our whole life, this whole world that we live in. So, and then each show to sit on to be at the table, like, what, Lisa Leslie? What, Swim Cash? What? I remember cutting out articles and of Summer Sanders, because I was, a swimmer. I wasn't a swim meet great, but was in the swim club in the summertime, and Dara Torres, and to meet them and work with them. I was like, wait, I have imposter syndrome. Should I be here?
Yeah.
It's happened a lot for me when I sit down, even sometimes I'm getting mic'd up or we're talking like, should I be here? Why? How did I get here? How am I sitting next to Andrea Kramer talking about the NFL? I went to her to learn about the NFL and to hear her reports. So, I mean, even with this 10th anniversary show, a couple times I'm like, should I be here? So it's humbling, and it also makes you raise your standards. You have to work at the highest level of excellence when you're with this cast, when you're on this show, and when you know who's listening, and we're given that opportunity to talk.
Well, Tina, you absolutely should be here.
Oh, thank
Okay.
you.
I just want to put what you've accomplished is so amazing. It's inspired both of us. And to see what each and every one of you have done with this show over the last 10 years has been phenomenal. And we really cannot wait to see the next 10. So.
It's exciting.
Cheers to the next 10. We just wrapped on the Olympics, but our next guest knows a thing or two about what it's like to win a couple of those gold medals, to cover the most famous games in the world, to be one of the first sideline reporters for the WNBA, and a plethora of other things. It is my pleasure to welcome Summer Sanders to the set. Welcome.
That's the first time I've had that little plug for being one of the first sideline reporters for the WNBA.
We do our research.
Lifetime television for women.
Yes,
Thank you. It was really fun.
Thank
you.
I mean, outside of sports, I also know you from my Nickelodeon days growing up. We can't forget to mention that. I mean, entertainment, sports, you've seen it all, you've done it all.
Wow.
And I think also at a time where it wasn't very welcoming for women to be more than one thing.
Yeah.
I think just now in the past 10 years, we're kind of celebrating that right now with We Need to Talk. We've seen it shift from expecting women to do one thing really, really well and do that for the rest of their career, to seeing women like you say, you know what? No, I'm going to do a bunch of different things and I'm going to dominate each and every one. What was that mindset for you, or doing that when it wasn't as popular? What was that like?
I just never saw it any other way. So I guess I give that to my mom, and also just raised by the likes of a Billie Jean King and a Donna De Verona, the women who paved the way for us as women in journalism and women in sports. So I just never saw my ability to do something any less than any guy. People will say, how in the world were you not nervous interviewing Shaq or Alonzo Mourning or, Michael Jordan? And I always felt like, oh, no, but they're my peers. Because I stood on the blocks in my last race at an Olympic Games, and I had yet to win a gold medal, and this was my last chance, which is quite similar to standing at a free throw line with the game on the line, and it's all on you. And I thrive in those moments. So I could relate that way, but it wasn't easy. One of those guys, I remember palming a basketball, and he came up to me on set on Inside Stuff and said, "Aren't you afraid you're going to break a fingernail?" And you guys, I have never had a manicure. I mean, I've had 2 manicures in my life.
Stop it right now.
But my first thought was, oh, bless his heart. He doesn't know what I've accomplished in sports.
No
so
idea.
I kind of turned it on them, saying, oh, you might want to go home, but you might be embarrassed. But it's okay. You don't have to be embarrassed. But I didn't say anything. I just immediately thought, oh, poor him, that he doesn't know that I've done a lot in sports.
I'm sure he knows now.
Yeah, he better know.
Maybe.
That's
Who
what he
cares?
better know.
Yeah.
But in all of those people that you have interviewed and all of the things that you've covered, what is one moment? I know it's probably hard because you've done so much. Like when I think about your career, I'm like, how could she pick one? But what's one moment, like a defining moment in your career that kind of catapulted you into that next phase, or even just a moment that stood out to you the most because it meant something to you the most?
So that's a great question. There are a few moments, not necessarily me interviewing, but the interview would be, I remember interviewing Michelle Obama. And I was a part of her delegation for opening ceremony for 2012. And I got to interview her at, I think, the training facility for Team USA in 2012. And I was talking to her about the campaign trail and how she stays in shape because, it's a grind. They're on buses and they're cruising and flying and all that. And I remember during that interview going, I cannot believe that I am doing this right now. Who do I think I am? The two other moments in my life that I couldn't believe they were happening was, I remember being at the state capitol in California, and my brother and I had just come in. It was after the Olympics, and I was being celebrated for something. And down the hallway was Muhammad Ali. And my brother goes, oh, no, Summer. You're not going to say that we're not going to go meet him, because I was really shy. And he's like, we are going to go meet him right now. And so I did, and I shook his hand, and then I went in and I kissed his cheek, and he pretended to get knocked out. And that was one of my favorite moments. And then lastly, in my 92 games, NBC said to me, can we do an interview with you and Bob Costas after you win your medal? If you win your medal, but after you win your medal. And I said, yeah, but can I get 4 tickets to the final of the Dream Team? Because I was a huge basketball fan. So at that game, I saw Ahmad Rashad. I was a huge Inside Stuff fan. And so I went up and introduced myself. Again, true departure from my personality. But I was like, I'm going to go. And if there's ever a time when I can go meet Ahmad Rashad, it is right now. And then 5 years later, I was starting my work with, dabbling, co-hosting, guest hosting, adding to Inside Stuff, and then 1 year after that, hosting it. So you never know, right? Put yourself out there.
You have to put yourself out there. You have
Yeah.
to take the chance. And I mean, you took a chance on another league, and that is the WNBA. I mean, one of the first sideline reporters. You were there from the very beginning up until the early 2000s, and seeing the type of season that we just came off of, the regular season at least. We still have the playoffs and the postseason to attack. Just seeing the growth. And seeing the growth not only in the individual teams and the league as a whole, but in the players. I mean, this probably is the most exciting WNBA season we've ever seen.
Yeah.
What is that like for you, knowing, going back to when people weren't really tuned in to now you're breaking records for the most viewership ever?
Oh, don't you just think it's about time? This product has been so good. Tickets have been available forever. Now people are not just, oh, what should we do on a Saturday afternoon? Well, maybe we'll go see a WNBA. They are like planning it, creating vacations around it. It is wonderful. I think my first thought is it's about time. And also, thank goodness, the WNBA had people around it that were like, failing is not an option, right? We don't care. If it takes this long, we are going to stick by it. I love the people who've been a part of it from the get-go. I think their investment is paying off big time, and good for you, because we all should have invested a little bit more way back when. I loved the hype when it first started. I thought the hype was very similar to what we're feeling right now. So I think that is a lesson for all of us. We have momentum in women's sports. A lot of it is led by these amazing players in the WNBA that everyone knows their names and can shout them, whether they're basketball fans or not. Where do we take that, and where does that lead us? And I think it's really another exciting time.
Do you have a favorite from the rookie class this year? Or do
I
you
mean,
have-
I just love the way, and first of all, I love Caitlin Clark, because I think somebody who's just pushed into the center in the spotlight like that has handled it so well. That is really hard, you guys. But Angel Reese, Aaliyah Boston, I mean, she's not a rookie though, is she?
She's not, but she's
still very
definitely having
young.
a stellar year.
I
Yeah.
know. It's just, listen, I mean, I know Caitlin's so well known. I just love the fact that I can go into a corporate world and say, name a basketball player, not a WNBA player, and half of them are going to throw out Caitlin Clark. The same thing, which I said on the show, when my son started taking tennis lessons, I said, well, name a tennis player. The only one he could name was Serena Williams. That's the difference, right? Let's let them name Angel Reese. Let's let them name Caitlin Clark. And then, and LeBron and Steph. But that's the conversation we want to start having.
And there's certainly been a lot of conversation around the WNBA, a lot of changes, and we're here celebrating 10 years of We Need to Talk. And a lot has certainly happened in those 10 years. Do you have a favorite memory? Because you have been involved from the very start, and you've had a lot of moments, but is there one that just sticks out to you that you're like, this is why we started this show?
We had Joe Torre on the show. I lived in New York City during 9/11, and I started crying when I saw him because I just wanted a chance to be able to tell him how important he was. And it's sort of what Amy Trask was talking about, how the power of sport is amazing, right? Even in Paris, I felt like I got done with Paris and I came back and I was like, God, that's what the world needed. It was like just this amazing vitamin for the world all through sport. And so having Joe Torre in there and talking about his charity, which helps abused and mistreated children. It's a place for them to go after school. Just such a kind man, but I got that moment with him. That was personally very special.
Well, it's been very special for us to sit here and talk with you, all the women from this show, this historic, pioneering show.
Well, you guys are doing such a good job.
Oh.
I mean, look at you. Awards, nominations, all of this. There are a lot of podcasts out there, but there's none like you two. So you keep doing what you're doing. I can't wait to come on the show and talk about my Olympic sports a little bit more. Okay?
Absolutely.
So you let me know, because I have to say this one thing to you really quickly. I just went to a luncheon with 150 women, and they are tech and finance executives.
Love that.
And I said in the very beginning, shout out an Olympian that you remember from these past Olympic Games. It was quite silent. There were several people, a couple of them said Simone Biles and Katie Ledecky. My point is, these Olympians only get one shot every 4 years. Can we please help say their names a few more times on those years in between?
We're going to learn all the Olympic names leading up to LA.
Great.
That's our goal.
We've only got 4 years, so we have plenty of time. There's Cortina Milan as well. So Cortina Milan will be the Winter Games. That's in a year and a half.
We can learn it.
Michaela Schifrin.
4 years of high school, I did that. 4 years of college, I can do this. Yeah.
No, we can learn it, and we definitely will have you back to talk about
it.
Because
good.
we
Absolutely.
love every single time that you've been on the show.
Yay.
And we want to talk to you more about it. And we
So
just want to
proud
talk
of
to
you.
you.
Good.
The Olympics are great, but having you on the show is always
Thank you, Alicia.
amazing.
Thank you.
And now it's time for our favorite segment and yours, Connecting Changes Everything, presented by AT&T. Today we are connecting you with Sarah Kustok, who is a trailblazer in the world of sports broadcasting. But it's her connection to people that has changed everything in her career and in life. So there are so many things that you could say about our next guest. Certified badass for sure. She was the first full-time female analyst for a local NBA team TV broadcast, But what supersedes every accolade that she's ever had is just what a caring, loving, and amazing person that she is. I am literally privileged to call her a friend as well, and privileged to sit here on this couch with her today. Sarah Kustok, thank you so much for being
She's going to send you an
us.
invoice for that later, by the way.
That is the kindest words, and from my heart. I appreciate both of you, and I'm so proud of both of you. I get to watch you every day, checking on the feed.
Thank you, Sarah. That really means a lot to me, because I know when I started here, in social media for We Need to Talk, everybody was very inviting, and it was great to be with every single one of you. But you in particular were just such a caring, inviting person that I just looked to immediately to be like, if there's anyone that I want to be like, it would be her, because you are just top tier.
That means
literally
the
in
world to
every
me.
way.
It does, because I think we do so much. We care so much about our professions, about work. I know how driven all of us are, but at the end of the day, I think what I care most about my impact or how people remember me, whether they think I'm terrible on TV or decent on TV. is how you treat people and treat people around you. And so that to me is the greatest compliment that you can give me.
And it's the sisterhood of women in sports that I think sometimes a lot of people want to make seem like is more catty than I think that it is in reality. Although, listen, we'd be lying if we would say it was perfect, but I think that there's a lot of good in it. And let's start off with that conversation right there before we get into the NBA and all the amazing things that you're doing. I mean, this platform, this show specifically, a pioneer, historic for a multitude of different reasons. What was it like getting the phone call to say, come be part of this? I mean, you've done a lot of groundbreaking things in your career, but this had to take the cake.
Actually, I would say this could be the most special for that reason alone. You look at the hosts on the show and the resumes are beyond stacked. I look across when I'm sitting on the couch with Alicia Leslie, someone who I admired and inspired me growing up, Swin Cash, Leslie Visser, the list goes on. But the opportunity then to be around them and experience the way everyone lifts one another up. And we all come from different backgrounds, have different perspectives, different views, different opinions when it comes to sports or whatever we may be talking about, but it's the respect and that level of respect and the want to lift everyone up. And I think so often there is a competitiveness, and we all have backgrounds as athletes, and you're to be the very best you can be. And I think it's the concept of knowing when you're all at your best, you're going to lift the level of it. And I think you see that, and hopefully viewers can see that in this show.
Can definitely see it in the show. And, you know, you've seen a lot of growth in these 10 years. I know that you work so many sports. It's not just basketball, but one of them is the WNBA. What has it been like seeing the growth in that league this year, especially?
Extraordinary. And I think I mentioned the names, but Alicia Leslie, a Swin Cash, to think about, you know, I was in high school, grade school going to high school when the WNBA started. And so these are individuals, you watch the foundation throughout the years of the talent, the skill, the love that we all had. And now I think the exposure and the recognition that so many of these players and teams are receiving based on the foundation that was laid originally. We always knew the talent was there. We knew the passion behind the game, the level of competition. But when there's more eyes on things, it adds to that type of exposure. And I think the buy-in, not only in viewership, not only in dollars, but the attendance. You see the way the crowds, I mean, we're here in New York, Liberty Games. It is wild watching a game at Barclays with that team and the support behind, and that's just one of many, many arenas. So for me, it makes me proud. And there's so much more growth, though, that can take place.
I want to stay at the Barclays, and I want to switch gears to a different team, because when you talk about growth, you talk about the growth of New York sports. And in 2012, you made a very risky move in New York City, and you went across the bridge and you decided to join the Brooklyn Nets full time. Now, in New York, that's the cardinal sin, especially back then. And as a Knicks fan, born and raised, it's the cardinal sin. But I mean, how nerve-wracking was that? We talk about the fandom of New York fans. You name a sport, the fandom is different than it is anywhere else in this country. And you went to a basketball team that relocated from a totally different state, brand new kids on the block, sharing the city with the OGs, the Knicks, across the bridge. What was that like?
Well, let me tell you, I've been here in New York for 12, 13 years, so I would consider New York home, but I'm born and raised Chicago. So like, it's Chicago Bulls, baby, for me, for those years, what that meant. Cut my teeth there as a player, and then getting into the broadcast business, which was one that I had zero intention to ever get into. But it was a passion behind that, sports, the love of the game, in understanding what that means. And so for the opportunity to go to a team that was moving into a new borough, what that would mean, the challenges behind it. And let me tell you, it's been a ride. Like, it's been a ride. There's been ups and downs throughout it. But I love that so much, seeing what people think that I would love to see the Nets continue to do. I love the Knicks. Like, I love this Knicks team. I love when they're great. I love when there's a rivalry. And so, it is something that, to me, just even coming to New York and being a part of that, I couldn't wait, because I think things like that, knowing you're in a new stadium, a new place, what that meant. And again, the highs and lows of that. And I think how much I've experienced throughout the course of these 12 years is something that has allowed me to meet so many different people see so much passion behind what New York sports is. And so growing up in the Knicks, I can only imagine. And I feel you get ready. This is going to be a good season.
It's going to be a fantastic season. I cannot
season.
wait.
But with that being said, I think that's the beauty of the game and of being able to have those type of teams and root for those type of teams, the highs and the lows. You ride with them no matter what it looks like. But yeah, I think your New York Knicks are.
I think it's been a lot of lows on both sides of the bridge. We're finally on the brighter side of things, you know. Yeah. It's been a tough time.
Yeah, it's okay, Ashley.
It's okay. I'm good. I have the liberty always.
We talk about it a lot. So going to Brooklyn, and you became the first female full-time analyst for a local TV NBA network broadcast. That's a lot to say.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad you're doing it, not me.
But being the first, what was that like? Because I think we had a conversation about this earlier, how we don't necessarily want to see the first, right? Yeah. We want all of these things to be broken already, and we want people to be in these positions. But carrying that was probably a lot. So what was it like being the first?
Well, I think to that point of that's the purpose, I think, for all of us with everything we do, taking novelty to the norm. And so now you watch TV and you can turn on any network and see females talking about the NBA, females talking about the NFL, any sport as you go along. And I think, you know, for me, I looked at Doris Burke, I looked at Ann Myers Drysdale, and I looked at others of having the opportunity to intersect a game I loved, a role I loved, in something that I was passionate to try and get better at. And I think it was more responsibility. I knew I wanted other women and females to continue doing this based on the competency I had. I know those women that came before me, I had this opportunity because of them. So to me, it was something that I cherished and did not take for granted, not just for myself and not just for what I wanted out of my career, but knowing hopefully how it would continue to build some steps and a foundation towards that. And I work with some of the best in the business. We say this often, the people that you're surrounded by, the people behind the cameras matter, just those in the truck, your producers, they matter even more. They're more important than who we are and what we often have an opportunity to do. So I am thankful for those who believed in me, and especially my bosses, to put me in that position and to take that risk and take that step. There's a Mike Conley quote. I always want to go back to this quote and then I get it wrong, but he was talking, this is some point during the playoffs, and someone was asking about criticism. And he said, it's not on my agenda to prove those who don't believe in me wrong. It's on my agenda to prove those who do believe in me right.
Yeah.
And
I know that's right.
So it's like, there's going to be a lot. We all need to have tough skin in this business. I was like, I know there's some people that put it on the line for me to have this opportunity. And so I better make sure that I do what I can to back them up on that. So that's the one thing that I held very true to me each and every night.
Describe the last 10 years as just a woman in this industry. We need to talk, obviously celebrating the 10-year anniversary. This is what all of this is for, but just overall, everything you've seen, what is the first word that comes to mind when you think of this last decade?
Powerful. I think it's powerful. I think there's so much room to grow. There always is in any aspect of anything in life, but it's powerful to me because I think about where I was at or what the media landscape looked like, or, you know, there's so many aspects, even of our society, that have taken steps, and some of it have been gut punches or hard to really digest or hard to see, and truths and the honesty that we continue to kind of come to the surface. But because of that, I believe there's growth and I believe there's movement. And I've seen that with women in sports, and whether it's leagues, whether it's individual, whether it's the media itself, all of it. The fact we're sitting here, like we're all sitting here on a couch doing this. We have a bunch of absolute superstars, you know, in the other studio as well, doing all of this shows me that a lot has taken place. And that's on the backing of women lifting each other up. It's on the back of hard work. It's also on the back of men making decisions to have belief and have that support, and have a partnership in hiring decisions. But I think it's been a powerful decade, and I have a lot of optimism for what's to come.
Well, I know that it's certainly been a powerful moment sitting here with you right now, talking about all of this, and we can't wait to see what the next 10 years and more brings, with power or otherwise, because If it's anything like these last 10, we're doing good. We're doing good.
Bring it up. Let's go. Let's go. Thank you guys so much for
Thank
having me. I
you.
appreciate you. And keep it going. Keep it rolling. We got you locked.
Ashley and I have some amazing conversations on We Need to Talk Now presented by AT&T, and you definitely do not want to miss any of them. So make sure that you subscribe, that you're also making comments, because we read all of those and we definitely want to respond to them. So make sure you give us comments. Make sure that you, wherever you listen to your podcast, that you're turning on those notifications for those too. So whenever we drop one of these amazing episodes, you're going to get it right away so that you can join us right here on We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T.